You were never meant to be everyone's favorite person, and yet you keep trying. You say yes, even when your body says no. You keep the peace, even when it costs you your own. And somewhere along the way, being nice became more important than being real. But here's the truth no one ever told you. Pleasing everyone doesn't make you loved. It makes you disappear. That empty feeling inside, it's not depression. It's self-abandonment. And it's what happens when you trade your truth for approval, over and over again. But there's a way out, a quiet way, and it starts right here. There's a certain kind of ache that doesn't live in your bones, but in your presence. The ache of always being on, of editing yourself before you speak, smiling when you're not okay, adjusting your light so it doesn't blind. The people who taught you to shrink, I lived there for years, in that invisible performance, not on stage, but in everyday life, afraid of being too much or not enough. You start to wonder, is this who I really am, or who I became to stay liked? Validation became my oxygen, not the good kind, the survival kind. Every decision, every pause, every outfit, every sentence, filtered through the question, will they approve? I didn't know I was losing myself. I thought I was being kind, considerate, self-aware, but deep down, I wasn't breathing. I was negotiating my own existence, trading authenticity for a seat at someone else's table. And it felt safe, but it wasn't peace. It was prison dressed as praise. Most people don't even realize they're performing. They think they're just being polite, productive, responsible. But deep down, they're exhausted because living for others is the longest play you'll ever be cast in. And no one claps at the end. You wake up already rehearsing, already proving, already asking, who do I need to be today to be enough? That's not life. That's survival with makeup on. I remember being praised for how easy to love I was. And for a while it felt good. To be seen, chosen, wanted. But what they loved wasn't me. It was my performance, my silence, my smile, my yes when I meant maybe, my ability to shapeshift. And every time they applauded, a little part of my spirit disappeared. Because if love requires a mask, it's not love, it's a transaction. That's the wound underneath most people pleasing. The fear that being real will cost us connection. And honestly, sometimes it will. Some people won't like your wholeness, your voice, your boundaries, your pauses. But spiritual growth and self-acceptance begin when you stop treating rejection like failure. You weren't born to be understood by everyone. You were born to be real with yourself, even if that means being misunderstood by the world. One small practice that changed everything for me, I started checking in with myself before answering. Hand on my chest, deep breath, a pause long enough to ask, do I actually want this? You'd be surprised how many yes you've been giving that were really just avoidances. Every time you say yes to please someone, when your body says no, your nervous system pays the price. Your body always knows. When you're betraying yourself, it tightens, it freezes, it flinches, it disconnects. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. You're not being dramatic. You're being honest. The spiritual path isn't about pleasing everyone. It's about returning to your true self. Breath by breath, choice by choice. And you'll know you're healing when silence no longer feels like punishment, but peace. Because once you start listening inward, not out there, but in here, something shifts. Not overnight, but slowly, tenderly. You stop seeking validation like it's a lifeline. You start choosing alignment like it's your birthright. And you begin to realize your worth was never meant to be measured by other people's comfort. It was meant to be felt by you first. There's a quiet moment that always breaks me. When I do something I thought would make me feel proud, and instead I just feel empty. That's the price of chasing external approval. It promises fulfillment, but delivers silence, because the applause fades, the praise stops, and all you're left with is yourself, a self you barely recognize, a life decorated for others, but disconnected from your own soul. I remember buying something expensive once, not because I wanted it, but because I wanted to look like someone who had it together. A simple thing, but the emptiness afterward was loud. It wasn't about the object. It was the realization. I was building a life that looked good from the outside, but felt hollow inside. That's what happens when validation versus purpose becomes blurred. We forget why we even started. You can feel the difference in your body. When something is aligned, your breath deepens, your shoulders lower, your nervous system rests. But when you're performing for approval, your whole system tenses. You smile with your face, but your chest feels tight. Your back aches from holding everything up. Your voice gets quieter, not out of peace, but out of protection. That's when emotional healing begins. Not when everything looks good, but when you finally admit, I'm tired of faking it. Tired of living someone else's definition of success. Tired of wondering if I'm too soft, too quiet, too different. But here's the truth no one told you. Your softness is sacred. Your sensitivity is strength. Your truth doesn't need to shout. It just needs to stay. And in that moment, something greater enters. Maybe you call it the universe. Maybe it's God. Maybe it's just presence. The kind that wraps around you without asking for anything in return. That's what Serena believes. That the moment you stop chasing is the moment you're found. Not by others, but by yourself. And by the stillness that never left you. Only waited for your return. So don't be afraid of the emptiness. It's not a failure. It's a doorway, a sacred space, where self-worth healing can finally take root. Where you get to ask, what do I actually want? Not to impress, but to express. That question has no rush, and no wrong answer. Just breath, just honesty, and a slow unfolding of what's been yours all along. One of the most powerful things I've ever done was nothing, just sat in stillness, without a to-do list, without fixing, without proving. At first it felt wrong, like I was wasting time, like I needed to deserve rest. But over time, I started to hear something again. Me, not the me I became to fit in, but the one I was before the noise. That's when I began returning to my true self. Self-acceptance isn't loud. It's not a TED Talk or a breakthrough moment. It's slow, subtle, like a soft sunrise after years of fog. You don't wake up and love yourself in full. You notice the way your body exhales when you choose rest, the way your voice steadies when you speak your truth, the way your eyes soften when you finally say, that's enough for today. I started placing my hand over my heart in the mornings. Just one moment. No words. Just contact. A reminder. I'm here. I'm listening. And somehow the universe met me there. In the quiet. In the gentleness. I didn't hear a voice or see a sign. I just felt held. That's how God shows up sometimes. Not with thunder, but with breath. Not with demands, but with presence. When you stop seeking validation and start living for yourself, not others, your energy shifts. You no longer walk into rooms wondering if you're too much. You walk in wondering if the room is right for your spirit. That's not arrogance. That's clarity. That's how to be authentic. In a world that rewards performance, you stop dimming. You stop folding. You stay. And you begin to see your healing isn't in becoming someone better. It's in remembering someone softer, someone wiser, someone who already knew. Deep down, that self-worth isn't earned. It's revealed, gently, with patience, with breath, with space. And that revelation doesn't need permission from the world. It just needs permission from you. If you feel far from yourself, you're not lost. You're being called back, inward, gently. This isn't a setback. It's a sacred reroute, a return to who you were before you learned you had to perform to be loved. The way back isn't fast, but it's real. And maybe, just maybe, it's closer than you think. Somewhere along the way, we were taught to become likable instead of whole. That to be loved, we had to be less emotional, less intense, less intuitive, and in trying to become someone palatable, we lost someone sacred, ourselves. But you were never meant to be anyone else. The version of you that existed before the world told you to change. She still exists. She's not gone, just quiet. Self-worth healing doesn't begin with confidence. It begins with permission. Permission to say, I'm allowed to take up space. I'm allowed to not always be agreeable. I'm allowed to be soft and still strong. That's how you stop chasing validation. Not by pushing people away, but by pulling yourself back in. And when you do, the universe responds. You'll start noticing tiny miracles. A friend who sees the real you. A moment of peace in the middle of chaos. A breath that feels like coming home. That's not coincidence. That's alignment. That's what happens when you return to your true self. And life meets you there. Here's something I whisper to myself when I forget. I don't have to be extraordinary to be loved. I just have to be real. That phrase saved me, because being real is the most radical act of courage in a world addicted to performance. And every time you choose truth over approval, you're rewriting your story, softly, bravely, authentically. So if you've been waiting for a sign, this is it. Not from me, but from something bigger. From God, from the universe, from that quiet place inside you that never gave up. You are enough, not because you earned it, but because you are. And the world doesn't need your perfection. It needs your presence. Unfiltered, unpolished, unapologetic. Place your hand on your chest. Take a breath and say it with me. I belong to myself again. If this moment moved you, don't let it fade when the screen goes dark. Save this video. Share it with someone who's been people-pleasing for too long. Tell me in the comments, what part of yourself are you ready to reclaim? Starting today. And if you want to keep walking this healing path, subscribe to Serena's Sanctuary and turn on the bell so you never miss the next message your soul's been waiting for. Because this isn't just a video, it's a return to your voice, to your peace, to you. Because no matter how far you feel from yourself, you're never alone.